Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then hi, my name's Zoe. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. It would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and also turn on that bell so you're notified every single time that I post. And if you're a current subscriber, please make sure that your bell is turned on, as YouTube doesn't like suggesting true crime content. So today's video is another missing persons case. I know I do a lot of missing persons cases, but I just enjoy covering these cases and getting the person's face and the story and their voice out there, so that's why I really enjoy doing these cases. So before jumping into today's video, I want to give my usual disclaimer. I mean no disrespect to anybody that I talk about in this video, anybody involved in this case. I'm simply putting the information together just to raise a little bit of awareness about this case. Today we are talking about the disappearance of Madison Scott. Madison Scott, who was mostly known as Maddie to her friends and family, was born on the 29th of April in 1991. She lived with her parents Dawn and Eldon Scott. She also had two siblings and they all lived together in Vanderhoof in Canada. Maddie was very fun, she was loving, she was playful, she was adventurous, and sometimes she would be spontaneous. She had many hobbies, mainly surrounding sports, such as dirt biking, team sports and horse riding. She was a very social person, so she would spend a lot of time with her friends. She loved to have the latest gadgets and she would make sort of skit type videos with her friends. On the 27th of May 2011, Maddie attended a party with her friend Geordie. She had met Geordie when they were in high school and they have been friends ever since. It was a friend's birthday party and the event had been posted on social media with a date and a time. The party was held at Hogsbank Lake and this is around 25 kilometres from Maddie's hometown. The lake itself is around 1 kilometre in size and it's surrounded by woodlands and forests, and within these forests are different campsites. Maddie and her friend did decide to camp and stay over that night. There was just shy of 50 people at this party, aged between 18 and 25. Like I said earlier, Maddie was a very social person, so she did know a lot of people at this party, despite only being there with Geordie, because majority of these people actually came from her hometown. Later in the evening, it's believed that some fights broke out and a lot of people were really drunk, including her friend Geordie. Geordie wanted to go home with her boyfriend because she was so intoxicated, so she asked Maddie to go with her, but Maddie was already in her tent in her sleeping bag, so Maddie made the decision to stay. Then Geordie left between midnight and 2:30 AM. The last known sighting of Maddie was around 2:45 AM and nobody has seen her since. Geordie did go back to the tent the next morning because she had to pick up some of her belongings before going to work. She said the tent was open and all the stuff in the tent was moved to one side. She initially didn't think that anything was wrong. Later on, at around 10 AM, other campers had started to tidy up the area and they noticed that Maddie's tent and truck was still there. Maddie's tent was zipped up at this point, so they thought that she was still sleeping and didn't want to disturb her. That Saturday evening there was another party on the campsite and this time there was around 150 people. But despite there being 150 people there, nobody had seen Maddie. Dawn, Maddie's mother, was a little concerned at first that she hadn't heard from Maddie. But it's not totally unusual that a 20-year-old will lose contact for a couple of hours with their parents, especially if they're on a fun weekend. She last had a text conversation with Maddie on the Friday night at around 11:30 PM. But by Sunday, calls and texts were going unanswered. Like I said earlier, Maddie was into all the latest gadgets, and as a young girl she would always have her phone on her. So it would be unusual that she wouldn't eventually contact her mother back. It had been over 24 hours since Maddie had spoken to her mother, so her mother decided to drive to the campsite for herself and look for Maddie. When they arrived at the campsite, they found Maddie's tent and truck. The tent was flattened, but this is most probably due to the party that took place the night before. They looked in her truck and her purse was in there, but there was no sign of Maddie and her phone. At around noon on Sunday the 29th of May, her parents decided to call police and officially report Maddie as missing. Police started to search for Maddie immediately, and in this case they'd actually used more technology and tools to try and find Maddie than they had in any other case at the time. One of the first things that police wanted to do, apart from searching for Maddie, was try and figure out who was at this party. They did manage to track everyone down and everyone was cooperative and did polygraph tests. So this led police to believe that if somebody was involved in Maddie's disappearance, it had to be from outside. The police and search and rescue teams from various different areas came together to search for Maddie. Grid searches were conducted from the area where the tents were right into the forest. Given how dense the area was, they used divers, helicopters, boats. They really didn't leave any stone unturned. The police even added more volunteers to the search and rescue teams to make sure they had everything covered, including the forest, the campsite and the trails. They didn't come across any evidence, and they said they didn't find any evidence of somebody making their way away from the campsite. So due to this information, police decided that Maddie had to have left in a vehicle. Also, because of this information, police decided to call off the ground searches in the area. Again, in this case, just like the last one that I covered, the community came together for Maddie and they made missing people's posters and tried to raise as much awareness in the surrounding towns as they could. Because police had ended all the searches in the area, her parents, her friends, people in the community decided to go out and do grid searches themselves. Police were starting to search further afield. They were knocking on people's doors and checking all the main roads out of the campsite. But again, they didn't find anything. They also conducted a forensic search of Maddie's tent and its contents, and that also included Geordie's sleeping bag and pillow. They didn't find anything of significance in any of the things in the tent, apart from a little bit of blood that was found in Geordie's sleeping bag. But there was an explanation for this. This was from a wound that she got when she was younger. Maddie's parents were, and still do, everything they can to try and find Maddie. So as well as physically searching for Maddie, they have created a Facebook group and a website to try and bring awareness to Maddie's case. They also hired a private investigator that decided to take a look at the case. This private investigator also questioned Geordie, and it is speculated that Geordie just kept asking for her favourite pillow back. It's been over 8 years since Maddie went missing, and her parents work extremely hard to try and get any information that they can. They do events to raise money, and they do find Maddie packs which contain stickers and posters that you can use in your area just to spread more awareness about this case. By setting up this Facebook group, Dawn has managed to get Maddie's face out there. Despite the effort of everybody and all the leads and tips that came in the past 8 years, we are still no closer to knowing what happened to Maddie, and neither is her family. The local police have come out and said that they could not identify anybody with a grudge against Maddie, and they highly think that foul play is involved. I'm going to give a full description of Maddie at the time of her disappearance, and then I'm going to get into a couple of theories around this case. At the time of her disappearance, Maddie was a 20-year-old white female. She weighed about 160 to 180 pounds and she was 5'4". She had hazel eyes and naturally ginger coloured hair. She had many ear piercings and a nose piercing. She also had a tattoo of a swallow silhouette on the inside left wrist. There is also a reward for $100,000 to anybody that can lead the police to an arrest. I will leave the Facebook group and the website that is run by Maddie's mother in the description box down below, and on them web pages you can find the Find Maddie kits, the documentaries and the missing people's posters. Now I'm going to quickly talk about the theories. Now, I'm not saying any of these are true, these are just some of the things that people believe about this case. The first theory is that Maddie possibly ran away or wanted to start a new life. Yes, Maddie was spontaneous. She was a fun, outgoing type of person. But despite all that, she is very family orientated. She would not just up and leave her family. She never had a reason to. So this is a theory that's only believed by very few people. The next is that Maddie got herself into an accident. Now, as we're aware, there is drinking and all sorts of teenage sort of stuff going on at these parties. So it is possible she got herself in some sort of trouble, whether that be on the campsite or outside. But there has been no evidence to suggest that she was in an accident. The next theory is that foul play is involved. Now, this theory is highly believed by the police and by the public. Police said they believed that foul play was involved because there were no signs of Maddie leaving the campsite. She must have left in somebody's vehicle. Also, there was no signs of a struggle, and Maddie had time to pick up her keys and her phone. So this suggests that she trusts the person that she got in the car with. The last theory I'm going to talk about is that she was possibly taken by a friend or somebody she knew. The first part of this theory is that Maddie was romantically interested in a boy at the time of her disappearance. This boy clearly stated to Maddie that he wanted to just be friends, and despite this, Maddie was happy. She didn't really take a hit from that. She just went on being her usual happy self. And this boy was at the party that night, but she never once mentioned that this bothered her or that she was less excited to go because of this one person. It's also not known whether the police have looked very far into this man. Also, many people have talked about Geordie being a possible suspect. I personally watched another YouTuber's video on this when I was getting to know the case, and the comments I saw for myself were flooded that Geordie did this. Now, just because she left Maddie that night does not make her guilty. Does not make her have any involvement. Yes, it makes her look a bit sus given the timeline of events, but that does not make her guilty. She's done various interviews and polygraph tests, which she has said she has passed. So at the moment, there isn't any evidence to suggest that she had any involvement. As you know, this video is the best summary that I can give, but I highly urge you to go and watch the documentaries about Maddie's case and go and find out a little bit more. It is totally worth it. I watched the documentaries before filming this video, and the details and hearing other people's version of events and things like that is really interesting. If you go to the link below to the Fav Maddie website, that way you can access all the documentaries. And I just want to give my thoughts to Dawn and Maddie's family. The reason I actually came across this case was because of Dawn. If she wasn't sharing and doing everything that she was, then I would have never saw this case. And she is such a strong lady. I can't imagine what she has been through the past 8 years, but seeing her power through and do everything she can to keep her daughter's face out there in the media is just amazing, and it's inspiring. So please go over to the Facebook group, what is linked down below, and just go and like some of the posts, go and share some of the posts. Share Maddie's face on your personal Facebook, because then we're getting Maddie's face out there. I'd really love it if we could all share Maddie's story together. So that is all for today's video. Sorry, like I said before, it's another missing person case, but I came across this case and I just had to cover it. But if you did enjoy it, please give us a massive thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I shall see you in my next true crime video. Bye.